Hey everyone, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of the Lifestyle Lifters Show. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Calvin Hartman. Calvin is an online fitness coach and he's head trainer at world-renowned and legendary gym, DeFranco's gym in New Jersey. Calvin, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the Lifestyle Lifters Show.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. I don't do a lot of podcasts, not because I wouldn't do them. I just as you could probably tell, I'm not super active on social media, but excited to be here, man. Excited to talk training.
Awesome. Well, we're absolutely going to do that, Calvin. But before we actually get into the training, share something about yourself that most people, and maybe even Joe DeFranco himself, does not know.
Oof. Getting me right off the bat with that one, dude.
Right off the back of that one, hey, that's how we do it here in Ireland, man.
Oh, something nobody knows about me. I'm a big, so I don't know if Star Wars is that big where you guys are, but when I was growing up, I was a huge Star Wars fan and a huge like space fan. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. Um, and I was like obsessed with space and got super into Star Wars. So I'm kind of a big nerd. So I guess that's something that most people probably don't know. And I just kind of shifted the nerd stuff from like space and Star Wars to like training. So yeah,
Into
I
fitness.
don't think Joe knows that about me. So yeah.
Interesting. Man, I'll tell you, I always wanted to be an astronaut too. After seeing, have you seen the movie, I'm sure, Armageddon?
I actually have not seen that movie. I got super into Apollo 13 when I was a kid.
Oh,
Like
gotcha.
that was one of
Yes.
my favorite movies growing up. But no, I haven't seen Armageddon. I'm embarrassed to say it.
Yeah, with Bruce Willis, man. That's what
Okay.
I wanted to be an astronaut too once upon a time. That's cool. We can connect in that. Tell me, Calvin. So just for all of our listeners out there, share a bit about you yourself, your backstory, what got you into fitness, and how you got the current position. Then let's take us all the way up to Joe DeFranco's gym. So if you want to rewind way back to the start, Calvin.
Yeah. So it's kind of a long story, but I'll make it as short and interesting as I can. I got into fitness really in high school because I was a pretty skinny kid, and I always wanted to be bigger and stronger, and really just had no idea how to go about it. And I remember cutting out articles in magazines like Men's Health Fitness and stuff like that, and doing these workouts and thinking, just having no idea about training, nutrition, nothing, and just kind of wanting to get bigger and stronger. And I actually lifted. I never played football, but I lifted with the football team a little bit in high school, just because. Kind of a funny story. I was lifting after school with like a couple of my buddies, and I would cut out these workouts and be like, guys, this is what we have to do. We're gonna look like this movie star. And the football coach came in and kicked us out of the gym because we had this rule where if you weren't part of a team or you weren't with a team, then you weren't allowed to be in the weight room. And just kind of being a smart ass, I was like, well, when can we work out then, coach? Like that doesn't make sense. And he was like, well, you could come lift with the football team at 6 in the morning tomorrow if you want. And I was like, I'll be there. And so I ended up lifting with them for a little while. And that was like my intro to the weight room. And like I was hooked. It was cool to be around, other people who were trying to get stronger, and the camaraderie, and I just fell in love with that. And I never played football, like I said, but I did run track and I was a pole vaulter. So kind of going back to, loving space and that kind of thing. Like I I thought it would be cool to pole vault and like you're almost flying. Like that's how I originally got into it because I was a big nerd and was like, oh, it'd be cool to, like kind of fly. So super long story short, I ended up pole vaulting in college. Really fell in love with training there because that's where I was like reading a lot and kind of studied it more and really got into it. And then I had a really good coach in college who really understood strength and conditioning and kind of helped me to really come into my own and understand training. And that's where I saw the most amount of progress was like in college. And then after college, I knew that I wanted to do something in strength and conditioning. Wasn't sure what, kind of had no idea, no plan. And so I had a friend who owned his own gym, and he basically let me train a couple people, like in the back corner of it. Was like, hey, give me a percentage of whatever you make, but you could train people here, like, I don't care. And so I trained a couple of the kids that were on my track team for free. Was just like, I want to start somewhere, so you guys can come in, and I'll train you for the upcoming track season. And I got a job working for a chiropractor as a I forget what the title was, but basically he would give people exercises to do, kind of like rehab exercises, and I would put people through these rehab exercises. So I was doing that part time, and I was, coaching a couple kids for free part time. And basically from there, I did that until I got an internship at I don't know. Have you ever heard of Zach? Do you know who Zach Evanesh is?
I've heard that name before by Joe, obviously in the podcast. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I don't
Okay.
know personally, but I've definitely heard that name before.
Great dude. I ended up seeing an Instagram post where he was looking for an intern, and he's another Jersey guy, so I wasn't far from him. So I reached out to him, kind of went through his interview process, and that was my first like real job in the strength and conditioning world. I interned with him for, I think, 3 months, something like that, 3 or 4 months, and then he had a position at a gym. He owned two gyms at that time. I think he's now just has his one gym, but he had a gym in Scotch Plains that he needed somebody to work on the weekends there. So I interned with him and ended up working on the weekends there for about a year. So I was working for the chiropractor, kind of coaching some guys for free on my own to kind of get experience there, and then working for Zach. And all the while this was going on, my fiance, who was my girlfriend at the time, was do you know what the sport skeleton is? Have
I
you ever heard of that?
we no, no, not at all. No, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, so do you know what bobsled is?
Yes, yeah, Bob
Okay.
said yes.
So bobsled it's four people on a sled going down a track.
Sure.
Skeleton is basically the one person version, and you go on your stomach. So
Okay.
my fiance, how we got to know each other is she pole vaulted as well. So she's like a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. And after she graduated college, she still wanted to compete at something, and she ended up competing for USA bobsled and skeleton. So long story short, as I'm doing this, my fiance is in the winter, basically for 3 months out of the year, she would live in Lake Placid, New York, and she was doing this skeleton thing. And at first, I kind of coached her a little bit, like training wise, not actually sliding. That's a whole different technique, but
Sure. Strength wise, yes.
strength wise, I was writing her programs, and I was getting into a lot of Joe DeFranco's stuff. I had just found his podcast, and was listening to how he got football players faster. So I was like, hey, listen, I don't know as much as this guy does. Like, I'm just kind of learning and teaching you like what I know, but this guy's in Jersey. You should try to connect with him and see if you could do your strength and conditioning there when, during the off season.
That's
So she
understandable.
ended up emailing Joe, and the guy who is in the position I am now, who's there before me, his name's Cam
Cam
Joss.
Joss, yes,
Yep.
yeah. I'm aware of Cam Joss. Yeah,
Yeah.
big fan of his too.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Great dude. So she, super long story short, reached out to him and started training where we are now in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And that was super cool for me because, obviously I wanted her to get, as good as she could, and him to help her. But selfishly, I wanted to kind of be a fly on the wall and, get
for
to watch the
sure.
sessions and kind of, annoy Cam by asking him a billion questions. So she trained with him for about a year, I think. And I came to a lot of those sessions. He was nice enough to let me kind of stand there and, like I said, just pick his brain endlessly, which he didn't seem to mind. I'd be like, why are you doing this? And what's this for? And this and that.
Sure,
Right.
yes.
Um,
And
and
one thing led to another. Cam then left, was it, Calvin?
yep,
And Joe needed a new
long
intern.
story short, Cam ended up leaving, and they were looking for an intern, and I was kind of, doing all these, working for Zach on the weekends, but kind of had this chiropractor job, didn't have anything steady, so I was kind of in a perfect place to, intern with him and then take the position. So that's kind of my background and how I ended up here at Joe's facility.
Unbelievable, man. That is awesome. And like, so Joe DeFranco, I initially discovered his work, Calvin.
Mhm.
I'm sure you're aware of Tim Ferriss's 4 hour body book. It was not 4 hour work week, which is
Yep.
a famous one. And obviously Joe featured in a chapter or two there how he gets like NFL athletes or combine athletes to jump insane amounts, to do like, these insane times for the 400 meter dash. And I just said, God, like this guy, I love performance-based training, I love athletic-based training. I'm gonna dive into more about him. And I obviously saw he had a podcast and followed that. Went from the podcast to join as DeFranco Insider to signing up for CPPS certification. And just ever since been really engrossed. And it's just been amazing for someone like you as well, Calvin. You're very, very young to get like such phenomenal experience and skill in the game there. It must be pretty surreal, like being obviously your own man and programming as your own man, but at the same time having Joe D there in the background.
No, I have nothing but, such respect for Joe and appreciation really for the position I'm in, because I just feel super lucky. And it really is like timing is everything. It just so happened that Cam happened to be leaving, and I feel super super lucky to be here and learn from Joe. And he's awesome. He's taken me under his wing, and any questions I have, like, I'll sit down and we can talk programming, and I can pick his brain. And I definitely realize that's not a position everybody has access to, and trust me, I feel very lucky, and he's been great. He's really the best.
So speaking of training, let's just segue slightly then, Calvin. This is perfect. What are
Yeah.
some training principles that you yourself would actually adhere to?
Um, I feel like the more people I train and the more different athletes that come in here, really, and it's gonna sound like, I'm avoiding the question, but everything works. And what I mean by that is, as long as you follow progressive overload, meaning over time you're lifting more weight for more reps, or you do it with better technique, or there's various ways to progressively overload. But as long as you're lifting more weight over time, or you're moving the bar faster, if speed is your goal, most things work. And there's a big range of things that work too, and you can argue that more volume might be better for certain athletes or certain people, and less volume might be better. But the big rocks, as long as you're doing big compound lifts, if you're progressively overloading them, um, and yeah, you're recovering in between workouts, a lot of things work. Which sounds
Great.
silly, but I mean, it really is true. I don't know that there's a particular. I'm not married to any type of particular philosophy. I know,
Sure.
and neither is Joe, which is something I've. If you look at his old work, like West Side for Skinny Bastards, and Strong Bastard 911, and all the programs he's put out, you would kind of put him in like, oh, he's a conjugate guy. But for certain, populations of people, it makes more sense to program linearly, meaning, you're not switching things up all the time. It's more you're sticking with the same exercise for a long period of time, and decreasing the volume and increasing the intensity. I mean, I've seen him program all kinds of different ways. And I guess my philosophy is each person is different. And the way we do things at the gym is every client is on their own program. And it's a tough
Yeah,
question to answer, because a lot
there's
works
a
and
lot
a
of
lot.
ways you can go with it, but it's
Yeah.
really that the fundamentals, it's progressive overload. Are we making progress? What's the ultimate goal? How are we going to actually measure this? What are some exercises that are going to be suitable, and just matching that to each individual client? I mean, I love what you said there about compound lifts. I think there's a lot of power in them, without having to be married to any one particular lift. I know that's something
Yeah.
Joe would always say, that you would say,
Mhm.
that there's no rule that says you have to do a straight bar deadlift or a barbell back squat. You can always find different ways to train the same or similar movement pattern. But as long as you're making progress towards you and your individual goals, everything does work. Just as you said, nothing will work forever. That's the caveat for changing things up, Calvin. And tell me then,
Yep.
I'm sure the answer is going to be quite similar, but I'd still be curious to hear.
Mhm.
What are some of the differences, if any, between training, we'll say, athletes versus just general pop clients?
That's a great question, and there's probably more similarities than most people think. You know, a lot of our high school athletes, I obviously, I prioritize the big compound lifts, but they're just like us. I'm sure you love hitting a set of bicep curls. Like they get their new program and they're like, dude, why is there no bicep curls in here? Like, I want to look good for the beach. So there's more similarities, I think, than people think. Especially and I don't know how you feel, but our Gen Pop clients who come in and when I say Gen Pop, I just mean, adult clients who aren't athletes. They're just training to, move better, feel better, maybe
Look
add some
better.
muscle.
Yeah.
I think doing some kind of athletic movement for them is arguably more important than doing it for the athletes, because if you think about it, the athletes are getting their sport specific work on the field. They're running routes in the off season, they're playing pickup games if they're basketball, they're pitching if they're baseball guys. They're getting movements that are outside of just the barbell lifts. The adult clients who come in, they don't. If they're coming to the gym, they're coming to see us 2-3 days a week. Outside of that, they may be sitting at their desk at work and then sit at their couch when they get home. They're not moving. They might not move at all, which I clearly encourage them. Hey, get your steps in. It's important to do things outside of just what we do here. But they're not doing any type of movement that's athletic. And as you get older, that your power production drops off quick, and it's the first thing to go. So our adult
Faster than
clients,
your
we
strength. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, we're doing med ball throws with them. We'll do box jumps. And I would say the main difference is it's definitely more joint friendly power work than we would do with our athletes. Like, we're willing to take a little bit more risks if the athlete, if it's important to increase their power. And we might be doing jumps, like trap bar jumps. We might be doing um, speed benches with bands and chains with our athletes. But with our adults, we'll typically do things that are much more joint friendly, and we'll still give them a good return on their investment, but they're definitely not risky at all. Like, we take very little risks with the adults. But most of the time their program is going to be, the adults are going to have less volume. We're not going to do as much work as we will with the athletes.
Sure.
And the conditioning work.
Understandable.
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely understandable. Just with work capacity for sure.
Yeah, the adults are going to have a little bit lower work capacity, so we're not going to be you know killing them as much as we might the athletes. It depends, but that would be, I'd say, the main difference is, with the athletes, we're incorporating power work with both of them. The athletes, we're doing things that are really going to kind of push the needle, and the adults, it's more joint friendly, less barbell work, more goblet squats over barbell squats, that kind of thing. But they don't look as different as people might think. You might see your
Sure.
favorite athlete on Instagram doing kind of crazy stuff, but our athletes are still doing squats and deadlifts and bench presses and shoulder presses. It's stuff that adults do too. So
And what would you say, so Calvin, if you were to name your top, let's just say 8 to 10 full bang for your buck.
mhm.
We won't spend too long on this, but just for any listener out there who kind of wants to improve how they look, improve how they feel, maybe build a bit of muscle, but also we're being really conscious now of, as you said, health and longevity and just joint friendly exercises. What would you say would be like 10 fairly decent exercises that would give you good bang for your buck that tick all those boxes?
So can they be power exercises too? Can it be a
They
mix
can
or
be a mixture of power, a mixture of strength, a mixture of hypertrophy, free weights,
okay.
machines, whatever you feel. What would you say are 10 bang for your buck exercises that most people should include in their program?
So I'm gonna go super basic. I'll say the first couple, and I would say these are kind of in order too. Like if I was, let's say I was writing a program for somebody, these would probably be in order of what I'm doing. We're probably going to do some kind of jump or med ball throw. So I love even something as simple as if you have a cement wall, just throwing a med ball at the wall. I'll program online for some people if they don't have that. We'll do like a bent over med ball chest throw. So you kind of imagine hinging at the hips, and now your chest is parallel with the ground, throwing the med ball at the floor. That's a great one. As far as jumping goes, all our
So,
adults,
so wait, med ball throw. Let's keep going. So
yeah,
jumping.
I'll go med ball throw of some kind. Um, I would say either a box jump. That's a good one. It's very low impact. It's
Okay,
you're
box
jumping
jump number two.
onto the
You're
box. Yeah.
jumping onto something awesome.
Some kind of squat, and that could be look very different for different people. So I love a
Yeah.
goblet squat for a lot of our adult clients if their goal is to just move better and feel better. But if you can handle a barbell squat is great too. Some
Okay,
type
med
of
ball throw, a jump, a squat. Keep going.
some type of hinge. So like a single leg RDL or
Great,
a
awesome.
barbell RDL, dumbbell RDL could fit those categories.
Okay,
A
we're on four, Calvin. What's number five?
number five, I would say some type of push-up variation. So, make it as hard or as easy as you can.
Yeah.
Number six, I would say some type of row. So that could be a dumbbell row, cable row. But my biggest bang for the buck exercise that if I'm programming for clients is a TRX row or a ring row. I don't know if you guys have
I
that.
love those. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they're so, I mean, you can make them hard by putting your feet on a box or easier by backing your feet up. So is that six we're at?
That is six, yeah. So we've a med ball throw, we've a box jump, we've a squat, we have a single leg deadlift, we have a push up, we have a row, so a TRX row. Four more to go, Calvin.
Four more to go. I would say let's go some type of carry. So I love farmers carries. I know
Amen, brother.
we've talked a little bit on Instagram DMs about those, but they're great bang for your buck. Seven,
Farmers carries are amazing, unbelievable, and so easy to perform and so versatile too. Last three, Calvin, what are they going to be? I'm putting you on the spot here. This isn't easy, man.
I'm gonna say some type of conditioning implement. So I love the assault bike. I don't know if you guys, if you're a fan of that. I mean, I don't think anybody's a fan of them, but they are
The
effective
fan of the
as
effect,
all
yes.
hell. I'm gonna say an assault bike for some type of high intensity interval training, and then I'm gonna go. This isn't in order because I would definitely put this earlier. I just thought of it, but some type of single leg work. So lunges. Bulgarian
Sure.
split squats are probably the most programmed here and most
Yeah.
hated. And I
I
got
think
one more, right?
the Bulgarian split squats are the most universal hated exercise of all time. If anyone wants to debate me on that, hit me up in the DM and Instagram or Calvin the same, but I'm sure a lot of people will agree. Yeah, that's awesome. So we've one more to go, Calvin. What's your final top 10 bang for your buck?
The last one, I'm gonna go some type of. I'm gonna go. I didn't put any core exercises in there besides the carries, so I'll put some type of anti-extension core exercise. So my favorite is a stability ball rollout. So you're on the stability ball with your forearms, kind of rolling back and forth. You could do that for time. That's a great one. That's one that's always
They're
programmed pretty
phenomenal.
often.
Unbelievable.
Brutal. So
Unbelievable. So
hard to
Calvin,
narrow it
you're
down to 10.
Yeah, that's good. Man, one thing I'll get you to name off the list, but one thing I'm surprised coming from DeFranco's was there's no sled push there. I was full sure you're gonna say that instead of the Bulgarian split squat or for the conditioning, but you kind of have the single leg covered anyways with the rear foot elevated. So your
Yeah.
top 10, you mentioned med ball throw,
Med ball
box
throw,
jump.
box jump, squat, and it's hard to narrow down exercises because I like to think about them as categories because you can
Sure.
kind of like a goblet squat or a goblet box squat, like they could both be great, or a barbell squat, like, but doing that pattern is important. And I would say you're right, a sled push is in there. What I would say about that is I do program them, and I find myself programming them a little bit more for athletes than Gen Pop. And the main reason is because there's no, with the sled push, there's no eccentric component, and we know that's pretty important for building muscle. And if that's a client's goal, like, I want to build muscle,
Fair
and
point. Yes.
I would choose the Bulgarian split squat over that. And the other reason
Yeah,
I use the sled,
absolutely.
a lot of clients just don't have access to it, like
Yes.
they're, hey, I'm at a Crunch Fitness and I don't have a sled push. So, but
That's a
that's a
big
good,
factor for me as well. I would have the sled in pretty much all of my clients' program if if the gym was available and if it suited. But as you said, even just loading it and unloading it all takes time too. And you know what? Sometimes a set of Bulgarians with the foot elevated just does the job as well. So
like,
you were saying there, so we have the go ahead and name off your, so just to confirm your list of 10 top 10 bang for your buck exercises, Calvin, you feel that most people should do more of.
med ball throw, a box jump, some type of squat, barbell squat, goblet squat, could be any of those. A dumbbell Romanian deadlift, could be single leg, could be double leg. A push-up variation, so there's a million you could choose from, but you could adjust it to your ability level. Um, what did I say? Some type of row, the TRX row. That's my favorite because it's so versatile.
Yeah.
A What did I go after that?
Assault bike,
I go
farmers,
bike, farmer's carry, single
and
leg squat, and then the stability ball rollout slash core exercise.
no bicep curls. Only joking,
If
man.
there's 11,
No,
if there's 11, I'd put it in there.
we got to show the calf some love as well. Some calf raises there could be number 12. It's hard to put everything in, man. It's hard to put everything in.
You know
Um,
what? It's so hard, and I don't know if you know who Alan Cosgrove is. Have you heard his name before?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
He talks about programming like you're packing for a trip, and it's like you can't bring everything on your trip. You can only bring certain things, and I feel that way about programming very much. It's like, within this specific time period, there's only so much we could kind of do. And I hear you. Their bicep curls and calf raises make it into a lot of my clients' programs. They really do. I
And
think
they're fun to perform too at the end.
they're fun to perform, dude, and they definitely make it in there. But if I had to narrow it down to 10, I don't know if they're making it in there.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're not bang for your buck exercise. They're not bang for your buck exercises. So
no,
Calvin, if let's just say, so there's somebody listening here and they're busy working professional, they
yeah,
work 40 hours a week and they are not athletic, but they're open to just obviously moving better and feeling better like everyone wants to. They might sit at a work, not or sit at a desk, and they might have some tight shoulders or limited hips there, and they want to train 4 times a week.
hmm.
What would you say would be like a good, just suggested template without even going through the day by day that this individual would follow?
So my first thought is an upper lower program,
Yeah.
and it depends on so many things. But and I hate that answer because it's kind of a cop out answer. But I'll give you some examples. So if the client is looking to increase their strength and build some muscle and that's important to them, I love the upper lower split because you can kind of divide up the volume a little bit. You can not have so many supersets so that you can kind of train each exercise more intensely and really put on some muscle or build strength. If the client is really just looking to feel better and move better, and their concern is more longevity, and I just want to feel good, move better, don't really care that much about building muscle, you know, which I would try to explain, hey, it is important to build muscle, and but regardless, a full body upper lower split works well, and then a day of conditioning in there works well too. So you could train 4 days that way, where it's a full body strength day, upper body day, lower body day, and then you could do some type of interval training on that fourth
On
day.
the fourth day. I like that, man.
That
So
one works
upper
well.
lower, or yeah, interesting, interesting. And just speaking more about your own current training, Calvin, are you currently following any training splits yourself? What does your training look like?
Yeah, so my own training has definitely taken a back seat than the recent years, which is okay with me. It's more about my clients, and I kind of get workouts in, not when I can, because I do prioritize them. So I personally do an upper lower split, and I focus much more on hypertrophy and higher rep ranges than absolute strength, because I am only 28, but I for a long time kind of lifted, I won't say dumb, but didn't do things exactly, the way, if I could go back in time and tweak some things, I probably would. So I do have some aches and pains, and, feeling a little bit beat up. So I like training a little bit higher rep range, just because you can still look to increase your strength and, like we talked about, progressively overload things. But I typically don't do a lot of like barbell squats or barbell deadlifts. I prefer doing things like, if I am going to use a barbell, I'll use a safety squat bar, and I'll use a little bit higher rep ranges. But I love
Sure.
that upper lower split. I think it's a great way to kind of keep and build muscle. And it's there's a lot of different ways you can go with it.
For
So that's
sure.
typically how I train
Yeah,
myself.
yeah. I've subbed out barbell back squats for the moment as well, Calvin. I'm actually as of recording this, I'm 2.5 weeks out from my first ever bodybuilding competition, just dipping my toe
Oh,
in the water there
nice.
and prepping for that. So I
That's
just
awesome.
found, because you mentioned there with recovery, and obviously when people speak about training to failure, like not every exercise is created equal, and training bicep curls or calf raises to failure isn't going to be nearly as taxing as doing a hard set of deadlifts or squats on your CNS, just on your recovery. And I just found with squats, particularly with my calories that bit lower, that I just wasn't able to recover from them, and my fatigue level just significantly increased for 2 or 3 days after doing them. So just for the last like 6 weeks, I'd say I've just subbed them out, and I've been doing pendulum squats instead, which are machine assisted and still giving me, a good stimulus there. Or maybe sometimes I do a leg press, but they're just not as taxing or fatiguing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm excited for you, man. So it's 2 weeks out?
Yeah, July 16th. So it's Sunday, July 16th. So we're recording this for all of our listeners. Today is Thursday, the 29th of June. So yeah, just over less than 20 days, I guess, at this stage. But it's exciting times, man. A few more questions, Calvin, before we wrap things up. So
Yeah, yeah.
just for the general pop here, what would you say are some common mistakes that people actually make in the gym? And we're not talking in DeFranco's when you have an assisted, when you've got yourself and Joe D, but we'll just say, if you were to walk into your typical 24-hour fitness, what would
Mhm.
you say are some common mistakes that you see that people should try to avoid?
So it's funny you mentioned that, because I actually just joined a gym right up the street from us. Like we have a dream facility here. We have everything you could ever need for training athletes, training Gen Pop. The one thing we don't have a lot of is machines, and so
Because
I've
of
recently,
space, yes. Yeah.
yeah, just because of space. So I actually recently joined a gym up the street from us mainly to use their machines and train that way. Because we do train a lot of online clients, and I want to be able to feel what something feels, know what something feels like, so I can coach them appropriately. But it's funny because I'll sit in between sets, and honestly, I don't listen to music. I'm really not on my phone. I'm just kind of watching everybody because it's so different for me because I've been spoiled. Like anyone who comes to the gym, within a couple sessions, they're good. Their technique looks pretty good. They understand basic philosophies. But, I'm not coaching anybody in this other gym. I'm just kind of watching and looking around. And I would say the biggest thing is exercise technique. And I know that's a boring answer, but I believe this to my core. A poorly constructed program that's done really, really, really well is way better than the perfect program that's butchered. The exercises are butchered. You don't pay attention to technique, and that's the biggest thing that I've seen in this gym recently is people are doing things the right way. Like I'll watch somebody kind of go through, a workout, and I'll see the exercises they choose, and they're all great exercises. And oftentimes they're in good order too. Like we have so much access to everything now. And these people are probably doing really good programs that are written by somebody who knows what they're doing, but they're not using great technique. And what I
Right.
mean by that is if they're doing let's say they're doing a dumbbell bench, for example, like they might just throw the dumbbells back, kind of rush through the reps. There's no thought to tempo. There's no thought to controlling the weight or using a good bar path or dumbbell path in this
Yeah.
scenario. But I think if most people kind of slowed down the eccentric part of the lift, which that's the lowering part, if they took their time, maybe 3 seconds or so on the lowering part, they took a slight pause at the bottom of the exercise. So if you're doing a dumbbell bench, if you kind of give it a little pause at the bottom, and then you should raise the weight basically as quickly as you can, under good technique. I think if people really focused on that and focused on doing the exercises well, they would see much, much better results. That's
Unbelievable.
just my 2 cents from being in this gym and kind of having my eyes opened. And it's really helped with my online clients too, because I tell them all they can send me as many videos as they want. And some people take me up on it, but some people don't. And in
Yes.
my mind, they're all doing everything perfectly. But being at this gym, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. I don't think so,
It opens. Yeah, actually, just one of my clients today, I the same now. He asked me for some feedback on a barbell back squat, actually, just as we
Yeah.
speak about it. And he sent me a video and he was using, the barbell hip thrust, the pad. He had
Oh
the padding
no.
there on the shoulder or on his shoulder. So that was like one of the first things I said, like take that off your
Oh
back. And for
no.
anyone listening, yeah,
Yep.
if you squat with the padding, because what that will do is it'll naturally shift your hips forward when you're barbell back squatting, you want to sit the hips back initially, but just your kind of alignment and your posture there, it's definitely not optimal to have the padding. So it's good for anyone here who has a coach or an online coach. Use them, send them technique videos, and it's really helpful to get that feedback. Just seeing as we're on this, Calvin, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap it up after this because I know you've in-person clients as well, and we're coming to time anyways. What would you say are the 5 most common butchered exercises that you see in the gym?
Wow. I'm gonna say barbell squat is number one, barbell deadlift number two, and it just so happens that my workout that I've been doing in this gym, I only go on lower body days, so I can use the lower body machines, and usually the upper body days I'm here. But I do a hack squat, and the hack squat happens to be right in front of the deadlift. So I see high school kids coming in like every day and just butchering the deadlift. And it's so hard because I've had to
Yeah.
bite my tongue because I'm like, hey, oop, oop, not my place. But so barbell squat, barbell deadlift are two. I would say, you know what? I'm going to put isolation movements up here. So I'm going to say a barbell curl and
Yeah.
a tricep extension are so commonly butchered. And those are two where I think you really, really have to take your time on the eccentric, pause, and squeeze because those are so hard to see progressive overload on. And if you're not doing them with perfect technique, how do you know you're getting any better at them? I would say those two. And then number 5 is a tough one. I would say most people are doing barbell bench pretty much okay.
Yeah.
It's the lower body exercises. I'm gonna say Bulgarian split squats are gonna be number 5 because yeah, those get butchered a lot. Whether it's people kind of just rushing through the technique and they're
Not going deep enough for,
not going deep enough, or they're trying to do too much weight, or in some cases they're not using any weight at all and just kind of like feeling the burn. Um, I would say those are my top 5, and mostly it's biased because those are the 5 I see the most.
sure.
But
That's
yeah,
fair.
that'd be my
That
top
and
5.
for Bulgarian split squats too, like I saw this Joe D posted initially because I was always doing it with my foot on the bench, like just
Mhm.
a standard weight bench. But
Yeah,
ever since I started putting my foot on a barbell and putting a roller on the barbell, like one of those barbell hip thrust pads, oh, the extra ankle mobility you get there, it is a game changer. So for anyone listening, and you are one of those people who don't skip leg day, you've got Bulgarian split squats or rear foot elevated split squats, whatever you want to call them, in your program. Don't elevate your rear foot onto a bench. Use a barbell with a foam roll pad instead, or a
right.
mat wrapped around it, and your ankle mobility will feel so much better. Yeah, Calvin, they're all really good ones, man. Let's just wrap it up. So, Calvin, first of all, is there anything that you're currently excited about or you're currently working towards?
Um, as you know, I'm not super big on social media. I plan to kind of make a comeback somewhat soon and start posting again. Um, the gym has just been very busy, which is awesome. I've been writing articles on my website for a while now. Those are exciting to me, probably not to anyone who doesn't like to read, but mainly I'm writing them as kind of guides for clients. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you do too, but I get questions all the time from clients that I'm like, man, I wish I had just like a something I could send you instead of going into detail on it. Um, so that's pretty much what I've been doing. Eventually I will make it back to social media, but right now I'm kind of a hermit from social media. So
Sure. Hey man, there's nothing wrong with it as well. Sometimes it can really take it out of you just keeping up with everything. So
yeah.
there's no harm in taking some breaks. And for all of our listeners there, Calvin, first of all, share where can people learn a bit more about you and what you actually offer?
Um, my website is just calvinhartman.com. Really, I'm active on the blog, just posting blog articles, but that's really like my home base. And then um, my email is on Joe's website. So if any of your listeners have questions, or they ever want to reach out about anything, I'm always happy to answer anybody. I might take a little bit to get back just because the gym is busy, and I got clients to get back to. But I mean, I remember being, and I'm still a young coach, but an even younger coach, and looking for help, and reaching out to various people, and they were always great to respond to me. So I'm always an open book. Like if anybody has training questions or anything, I'm happy to answer. So yeah,
I'll link your website and I'll link your email, Calvin, in the show notes.
I
I'll link both
appreciate
of
it.
those. And just final question, Calvin, for all of our listeners out there, because this is the Lifestyle Lifters show, what would you say is your definition of living a successful lifestyle?
Hit me with some deep ones here, man. I like it. uh I think a successful lifestyle is one where you are of service to others in some capacity, and you're happy. And that could mean a lot of different things for different people. Is that more what you mean, or do you mean more like training wise? Or is it more like a kind of a big?
100%, everything you said there.
Okay, so I would say doing something where you're of service to others, whatever that means. You know, And I get not everybody does what we do and can directly see the impact we have on people, which is very cool, and that's why we do what we do. But being happy in your own life is super important, and it radiates to others. When you're in an airplane and they go over the safety procedures, they always say you have to put on your own oxygen mask first. And if you're not happy, if you have a family, if you have kids, like that's going to come through, and you're not going to be the best father, the best husband, the best significant other. So taking risks and doing whatever it means to you to be happy and somehow be of service to others, I think are the key. And listen, I'm 28. I don't have anything figured out, but I know that those are two things that Joe D does that I've tried to emulate, and
It's
he's
going pretty well so far.
influence. Yeah, he's done pretty well so far.
Wow, man, that's been awesome. I love those takeaways too. Unbelievable, phenomenal stuff. Calvin, thank you so much again for your time. This has really been so enjoyable chatting. I feel that if I'm ever over in New Jersey or your neck of the woods, we could sit down and chat for hours and hours about everything and maybe get a workout in. But I
Dude,
really appreciate your time, and
you're always
it's just been
welcome.
it's been an honor having you on, Calvin.
Dude, it's been an honor being on your podcast. I really appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you.
Great chatting. Calvin, thanks again. Have an awesome day, man.
You too, brother. Take care.